Now let's start with the first collection, that is list. Let me explain you that how like in list we can store similar type of information together. So before understanding how it works, we need to like be clear about the major two properties of list as a collection. The number one is, in list, the elements or the values or the information that we are storing inside it is stored in an order. That simply means that the first element that you have stored is onto the first position, the second is onto the second position, and the third is onto the third position, and so on. And whenever, like, even if you want to access the first element you want to store, you'll just pass on the index of the first position and you'll get that element which you stored first into that particular list. So number one property is this, like the information that we are storing in list is in an ordered format. Number two property, and that's also very important, the elements or the values that we store inside a list is non-unique. That simply means that list can have duplicate values as well. Now let me create a diagram which will help you understand list even better. So like in list, what happens is we store the information in an ordered format, and yeah, so imagine I've created this list, and this list stores integers. So in collections we store same type of information, and and when it comes to list, we store same type of information, and that too in an ordered format. So over here we are storing integers together. I want to store multiple integers together, so I've created a list, and I'm referring this list with let's say I list, or I is a variable which refers to this particular list, and I is basically a reference variable, nothing else. So now if I want to store a value inside this particular list, how I'm going to do that is, like, I want to store 2, so this is how 2 will get stored. I want to store 10, so this is how 10 will get stored. Then I want to store 6, then 6 will get stored. Then I want to store again 2, then 2 will get stored. Then I want to store 3, then 3 will get stored. And after that, if we want to store 5, then this is how I can store 5 into it. So we can add as many elements or as many values as we want in a list, because lists in Apex are dynamic. That means the size of the elements, or the number of elements that it can hold, can be changed at runtime. So yeah, we can store as many elements as we want. And the most important thing is, the lists are similar to arrays in different programming languages, as we can use it with the index as well. So the first value that you store in a list is on to the index 0, the next is on to the index 1, and next is on to the index 2, next 3, and then 4. Next is 4, and then next is 5. So if we want to access the first element that we stored into this particular list, we're gonna pass the index 0, and we'll get 2 as an output over there. So this is how we store similar type of information together with the help of list, which is basically a collection. Now you got the idea that how the information gets stored inside a list. Let's create a list in our Apex program and understand how it basically works, and understand different methods or different notations with the help of which we can create it, we can store information into it, and we can basically use it. So here is the here is a simple syntax of with the help of which we which defines how we need to define a list. So in order to define a list, what we need to do is, we first need to write down list, which is obviously the class with list collection, and then inside these angular brackets we need to specify the data type. Let me tell you what these angular brackets are. So these this is a generic class. Lists can be of any data type. Lists can be of integers, lists can be of strings, lists can be of date, anything. So while defining the list, we need to specify that which type of information this list is gonna store, and that type is basically the data type that you have to write down inside these angular brackets. So if you want to create a list of integers, you need to write down list and then angular brackets, and inside angular brackets you need to write down integer. That's it. Then the reference variable with the help of which you're going to refer to this particular list. So remember, like, we're going to take this example again. So this is the reference variable which we can use, right? So okay, let me erase this first. Let me create, yeah, this is the reference variable which is referring to this particular list. So we need to like give it a particular name. So if we'll give it the name I2, I1, I5, whatever we want to give, we can give it like that. And the same rule applies over here. The same rules which are applied to the variable names applies over here. It's nothing but a variable name. Then equals to, then we have to write down equals to, and after that we have to initialize or basically create a list. And let me tell you how to create a list. In order to create a list, what we need to do is we first need to write down new as a keyword. And let me tell you why new, because new is used to create a new list, or a new list. So first we need to write down the new keyword, and then we have to write down list. Then inside the list, again the angular brackets, and the data type that we have to write down over here needs to be similar with the data type that we have written down over here. So if on the left hand side the data type is integer, right hand side it should be integer. So if and if left hand side it's string, right hand side also it should be string. And it's nothing but defining which type of information we are going to store in this particular list. And after writing this list, angular brackets and then data type, we need to like open the parenthesis and then close the parenthesis and then write the semicolon. And this complete statement creates a list. So what happens is this new list, data type, parenthesis open, parenthesis close, creates a list, and this list gets assigned to this variable which is a list over here, as you can see. And this is the basic syntax of creating a list, no matter which type of list you are creating. But in Apex, in order to create a list, you have to write down a statement similar to this. Now let's see that how we can create a list in an Apex program. We have understood the syntax, but we still need to create a list, right? So first what we'll do is we'll create a list in this Apex program, and we'll add some values into it. So here is a simple program. Here is a simple program in which we are going to create a list and we're going to add some values inside it. So the first statement that we need to write down to create and initialize a list is again that same thing, list, and then inside angular brackets I need to write down integer because we want integers to be stored into this particular list. So and then L1. So this is the reference variable. So let me make use of the diagram. So what is happening is after this statement list integer L1, a new reference variable will be created which will access with the name L1. And after equals to, we have written down new list integer and then parenthesis open and parenthesis close. So this is going to create a new list of integer. So this is a new list of integer that's going to create it with the help of new list integer statement, and with the help of equals to operator will assign this list of integer to this L1 reference variable. Now to add values inside this particular list, we'll use a simple method which is add, to add the values into this particular list. So L1.add2, what this statement is going to do, this will add 2 inside this particular list, just like this. And then the next statement is L1.add4, so it's going to add 4 over here. Then L1.add6, so it's going to add 6 over here, just like that. And even if I write down L1.add 4 over here once again, it'll get stored. There's no problem with that, because list can have duplicate values, as we have already discussed in the properties of list. Major 2 properties, remember? Which one? Number 1, ordered. The elements are stored, or the values inside a list are stored in an ordered format or in an order. The second, the values of the elements are non-unique. Congratulations, you have successfully understood how to create a list and how to add values inside it. What else do you need? Let me tell you what else do you need. So this is not the only way with which we can create a list and add values into it. There are multiple other ways as well, or multiple other notations or statements or syntax as well, which you can use to create a list, right? So let me show you another one. So in this statement, what I'm doing is list integer L2. So the left hand side is exactly similar to the above one, but there is a change onto the right hand side. And let's discuss the change. What is the change? Let's have a look at the change. So new list integer, it's exactly same. But instead of the parenthesis open and parenthesis close, now we have curly brackets, right? So we have got curly bracket in the left, on the left hand side, and curly bracket on the right hand side, and inside those curly brackets we have the values, or the integers that we want to store into this particular list. So this complete statement is similar to the above statements. So like over here, what we were doing is we were creating a list, and then we were adding the values inside it, right? We were adding 2, then we were adding 4, then we were adding 6. So in this statement, let me tell you what is exactly happening. Instead of creating the list and then adding the values, we are creating the list while adding the values, and then we are assigning it to the reference variable. Let me explain you how it basically works. So what is happening, a reference variable is getting created on the name L2, and then a list gets created where we first store the values. The 2, 4, 6 are getting first stored into this particular list, because like we have passed these values while we are creating this particular list. Getting it? So we are storing all of these values first, and then we are assigning this list to this reference variable. And where in the above situation we created the list first, then assigned it to the variable, and with the help of that variable we used add method in order to add elements into this particular list. But that doesn't mean that we cannot use add method with L2, right? We can use L2 dot add 5. There's no problem with it. You can do that. It is just if you want to do it in a single line, and if you already know what all elements are going to be there into this particular list, use this notation, this curly brackets notation. Or if you think the elements that you're going to add, you're going to decide them later on, or you're going to get those elements later on in the program, then in that case use the add method. It's totally up to you, and you can do both as well. There's no problem. So we have created a list of integer type. What if we want to create a list of some other data type? So here's a simple statement that's relatable to you. So instead of integer inside the angular brackets, we have to write down string, because we want string to be stored into this particular list, right? So we'll write down list string L3, and then new list, then again string, and then curly braces, I, comma, am, comma, feeling, comma, good. So there are 4 strings that I'm storing into this particular list, which is referenced with the reference variable L3. So let me tell you how it's working. We are creating L3, a reference variable, which is going to store the reference of a list, which is going to store string inside it. So yeah, there's a list that is getting created. The first value is I, then the second value is am, and the third value is feeling, whatever it is, yeah, and the fourth value is good. So there are 4 strings that are stored together in this particular list, and this list is then assigned. Yeah, it was not assigned earlier, but after storing all of these elements inside it, we assigned this list to L3 reference variable. Similarly, we can store different types of information together in a list. All what we need to do is we just need to write down the data type of the information that we have to store into this list inside the angular brackets.